Hey y'all, I'm Brooke Hoover, a Louisiana native, actor, writer, and comedian. I've lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise, or shall I say, lifestyle changes. My 20-year and counting health journey has taught me that just like taking a diet pill for weight loss, body positivity doesn't magically happen overnight. I'm working on regaining my self-esteem and rekindling my love affair with Cajun and Southern comfort food in a healthier way, all the while juggling eating as clean as I can, reestablishing myself in the entertainment industry, which, as we know, is historically fat-phobic, all the while showing my inner fat girl some love. That's fat with a PH. Pretty hot and tempting. Let me tell y'all a tale or two. I could give two shits about beignets. There. I said it. Well, that's what I used to tell myself when I was first on my mission to eliminate foods that don't agree with PCOS. Mainly refined sugar, white flour, and fried foods. It was something that was easy for me to give up. Because I'm very particular when it comes to fried dough, which of course we will discuss in detail. That's why this podcast episode exists. And because when I gave up beignets, I wasn't in Louisiana. So let's backtrack here. A beignet, just in case you don't know, is a fried dough pillow. It's specifically leavened dough, aka risen dough, as in he is risen. Jesus is risen. Like that beignet needs to be like Jesus before she's ready to cook, all like nice and risen. It's in a square shape, extra fluffy and golden. And when you squish it, like it should do that hee-hee thing like the Pillsbury Doughboy does. And if it's not, run away because it ain't a beignet, it's an imposter. So beignets, they came from France, or more likely ancient Rome, where everything was invented. Unless you're Greek, then it comes from Greece. But fried dough was frying and cooking up back in the day. And of course, the French had their own version, and they made it better than the Romans, I'm sure. Of course, I'm being a little elitist because I have French heritage. So what do you expect? I don't know, that little voice was an attempt to be French, but also British, and also just like pretentious person voice. Anyway, nearly every single culture has some form of fried dough. And of course, like most comfort food unique to a culture or to a heritage, it's very specific and very cherished. There are churros in Spain, strafoli or zeppelis in Italy, Jersey Wonders in Jersey, which is not New Jersey, not the state of New Jersey like my dumbass thought when I was doing research, but Jersey is a small island country in the English Channel. There are beaver tails in Canada, which just makes me laugh, and there's puff puff in Nigeria and Western Africa. That's got to be my favorite name. The closest to a beignet, in fact, would be a puff puff. In America, y'all have all probably had a funnel cake with powdered sugar at a fair, or if you're in Texas and you're crazy, you may have had fried Coke dough, which is basically dough fried in like Coca-Cola syrup and more Coke poured on top. Whipped cream and a cherry, of course. Makes me think of Parker Posey in Waiting for Guffman when she's like, people just come by and just want a Coke. They just want a Coke. Well, in this cake, pun intended, in this case, they might just want a fried Coke with a whipped cream and a cherry to feel fancy. So back to beignets, y'all, back to beignets. The French were kicked out of Canada by the English, and the Acadians, aka the Cajun folk, like my mama and them, brought this dish, the beignets, and the tradition with them down to Louisiana in the 1800s. You've all probably heard about the famous Café du Monde that sells the beignets and the coffee, right? The Café au lait. That opened up in 1862. It's right by the Mississippi, right by the levee. It's like an outdoor cafe, if you will. I had convinced myself I hated beignets, much like I convinced myself I hated king cake. Do y'all remember that episode, season 1? If you want to re-listen to it or listen to it for the first time, that is a blast from the past.
But I did that kind of as a way of surviving, or in other words, just trying to regulate my polycystic ovarian syndrome symptoms. That's a tongue twister. And yes, also lose weight. The healthier way, the healthier way to talk to myself about this would have been to say, oh, just have it in moderation and love it from afar. But life isn't always that simple. Am I right, y'all? It took me nearly 20 years to realize this. And sometimes it is hard to enjoy things in moderation, especially when you are going clean slate, cold turkey, all that. So I did what I could. And here's how and why it took me 20 years to realize this whole beignet love and relove. I went to college on Long Island. Wonderful people. I was the only person from Louisiana, literally in the whole college. It was mainly a commuter school, and the theater department was the most eclectic bag of nuts. I had some friends from Texas, friend from Iowa, but I was the only one from Louisiana. And I had done everything in my life to escape Louisiana, to escape the South, to move on and be artsy, make art. But as is common when someone like me, like an artsy folk, leaves the motherland, every person I talked to was nearly obsessed with my motherland. That actually made me love and respect my motherland more. So freshman year. So SEAUX. That's, like a go Tigers, GEAUX. That's what we do back home. But so many people asked me about Mardi Gras. And y'all, hey, when you're listening to this, it's going to be Lundi Gras 2024, baby. And so many people were also asking me about king cake and about beignets. And a few cats said, hey, we have zeppelis. Those are kind of similar to beignets. And I was like, okay, let me try some zeppelis. I never had them before. And we went to Lanza's, this kind of like pizza place that made garlic knots and pizza, of course, and zeppelis, yes. And I tried some and they were good for what they were worth. It was like powdered sugar and it had a good squishy consistency, but they were much more dense than beignets, and they weren't like in a square pillow. They weren't quite home. They weren't home at all. And they sure as hell weren't served up in a cute little cafe like Café du Monde, or better yet, like the beignet mecca of Baton Rouge, where I'm from. Coffee call. Okay, y'all, we're going to do what we do sometimes on this here podcast. We're going to do like a little flash backward and then we're going to flash forward. Okay, y'all with me? So let's go back to the 1980s. Back in the day when I was little, my dad would bring me to super early morning church at St. James in Baton Rouge, like around, I think it was at 7 a.m. And afterwards, we would go to Coffee Call. Coffee Call, which it opened in 1976, Pickup Sticks, named that movie reference. So Coffee Call was located in a shopping center off of College Drive. And it was like mini shopping centers that I was accustomed to in South Louisiana in the 1980s. It was wood paneled. It was a lot of cute individual stores surrounding, like making up a courtyard. And usually it was right by a jazzercise place. There had to be a jazzercise place in that little shopping center, right? This was true of Coffee Call. So they have since moved locations just several feet over, several many yards over, if you will, many blocks over if you're a New Yorker, due to Walmart. They had a jazz funeral and everything when the Walmart construction began and they moved Coffee Call over. I quite wish I had been there for that jazz funeral. So if you open up the doors to Coffee Call, 1980s, you're immediately flooded with the scent of fried dough, coffee, of course, and a million other people from all walks of life studying, visiting, telling tales. Coffee Call itself is covered in white subway tile and like these vanity lights, like those circular boob lights, and ice cream parlor chairs. And it feels like a cafeteria meets a bistro. So it's welcoming, not pretentious, but still a little classy. And to this day, it's probably the one and only super frenzied, really busy place that actually feels calming to me. I don't really like busy places. But they have like this hot cafe au lait on tap, y'all, like always running in this old school thing. I don't even know what it's called because I never worked in the food service industry longer than a day or two at a time. But those kind of things like you see lemonade in, but they have ones that hold hot coffee or cafe au lait on tap, and you get free refills. And of course, they have their beignets. Okay, so now we're going to flash forward to go back to modern times, just a little hair. So I don't realize or remember my love of coffee call until my boyfriend Harry comes down to Louisiana with me when my dad was in the hospital in 2019. Harry had had beignets on his very first trip to Louisiana with me, but we just went to Café du Monde in New Orleans. Poor things, bless our hearts. But honestly, y'all, coffee call is better than Café du Monde. It's the nostalgia of coffee call, yes, but it's also they turn their fry oil around quicker, if that makes sense, because Café du Monde is so swamped with people. So they're not they don't have the freshest oil, let's put it that way, as coffee call does. And you're going to get a fluffier, squishier, like Pillsbury Boy, squishy, and less greasy beignet, and a lighter beignet than Café du Monde. I mean, slightly. I mean, like Café du Monde is still pretty excellent, but coffee call is the best. And all of this knowledge was thanks to my dad, Hoover Bob, who did work a lot in grocery stores and the food industry when he was growing up. But again, don't get me wrong, y'all. You cannot go wrong at Café du Monde. They're wonderful, but coffee call, like most things from home, your home, you know what I mean, y'all. Anybody's homes, it will always just be slightly a little bit better. So when Harry and I went down to Louisiana in 2019, it wasn't a trip for fun. It was a trip basically for an emergency. But while my dad was in the hospital having a procedure, there was nothing for us to do then and there. No, he wasn't having a procedure. He was taking a nap. I wouldn't have left him alone to go have a beignet while he was having a procedure. I'm not that bad of a daughter, but he was taking a nap. And I was like, Dad, we need a break. We need a break. Harry and I just had a short little time to get away from the hospital. And when you are a caretaker, even if you're a long distance caretaker like me, you do need times to take some time to yourself. I know there's moms out there listening, dads out there. Take some time for yourself. But my fellow adult caretakers of parents, it's okay. It's okay to take a break for yourself. But I still felt super guilty. I'm actually like getting verklempt and fixing to cry here because I felt so damn guilty. We'll get to it, but I think it was because my dad used to be the one taking me to coffee call. You know what I mean? When I wrote this outline, I didn't expect to get so emotional. But I also, I wanted to show Harry a good time. Like, we're down there for a serious, obviously, event, but it's Louisiana. You got to have a little fun, you know? I promise I'm going to get over this emotion, y'all. I'm going to ride my voice back. We're going to ride it. We're going to ride it. So I took Harry to coffee call. And even though this coffee call was in a new location, it was my first time actually to be to the new coffee call location since Walmart went and screwed everything up. I remembered every single thing. They recreated the new coffee call so wonderfully. And it felt just as I described it and remembered it from the 80s. And yeah, it did feel weird being there without my dad. And you might say, well, Brooke, why didn't you just bring your dad a beignet? Several reasons. Number one, you got to have a beignet hot, fresh, then and there. If you leave it for like 5-6 minutes, nope, not going to be good. It's going to start to harden, get like fry and yucky. Number two, this hospital visit, my dad was having a toe amputated because of his diabetes. So fried dough and powdered sugar were probably the last thing he needed. But then again, looking back, I'm like, I wish I'd just brought him a damn beignet. I was able to enjoy the beignet and the cafe au lait without worrying about calories or carbs for once. I put all of that aside for the experience of bringing my boyfriend to experience something that was so special to me. And later on, I did have a bad sugar crash. I was like going, doing all this crazy stuff, cleaning my dad's house like crazy, going to town. My Aunt D was like, "Baby, you going crazy, girl." And I was, and then I had a bad sugar crash, but I don't really remember the bad sugar crash. I remember the experience, you know? That's more important than any of the other stuff, right? Since then, Harry has been back to Louisiana with me twice, and I've taken him, yes, and my dad back to coffee call both times. Most recently, just a few weeks ago. While the beignets are awesome, the favorite part is like the brightness and decor inside, or maybe the cafe au lait on tap, or it. I think it's just the company. It's just the vibes and the company. Although the beignets are still the damn best in the state, I think. There have been some beignet branch outs, including beignet fingers, which are just as they sound, and they do sell them at Coffee Call. They're a little bit more expensive than the just regular beignets, and you get kind of less. Beignets in the shape of fingers, yes, but to me, obviously a finger shape won't have that same pillowy, and you taste the oil more because there's more of like the ratio, so there's less dough, if you will, and more fryness. We're making up words here. But y'all, funny enough, in New Jersey, where I live in New Jersey, there have been a couple of beignet cafes. Let's talk about that. So my mama, our best friend Crystal from North Carolina, and we once went to this well-known donut place in New Jersey called Glaze Donuts that I was following like a psychotic person on Instagram. I'm not really a big donut person in general, but every so often I just crave something that I keep looking at on Instagram. Instagram and food, it's and local stuff. It's like lures me in like the witch from Hansel and Gretel. So we went to Glazed Donuts in New Jersey, and we're waiting in line. My mama Crystal and I are talking about how gorgeous those donuts looked. And we got to talking with this nice guy who's sitting at a little table nearby. And we ordered like 5 different cute, beautiful donuts to try and to share. And we ordered some coffees. And the guy goes, "That's the best coffee in the state of New Jersey." And the man then hollers over to the cashier, "Hey, hey, it's on me." And my mama, Crystal, and I were also amazed and touched by this, especially in New Jersey, because that is such a Southern thing, my mama and Crystal said to him. Well, it turns out this guy was the owner of the place. His name is Jewel, and he was so excited that we were so excited about his donuts. So we sat with him and we got to talking, and he said he was fixing to open up a beignet place in New Jersey called Bourbon Street Beignets. And then a week and a half later, the pandemic happened. That was March of 2020. Jewel did open his beignet place, and I think it did well for a while. Doing some research, it has since closed. And I'm mad at myself that we never went and tried it. You know, it's like life is short. Take it from like a beignet place in New Jersey closing down that you wanted to visit that you never did, with like the world's nicest owner, fried dough owner that you never went and visited, to let you realize how short life is. I mean, there are a lot of other things to tell you how short life is, but that's where we're going right now. And there's a place in New Jersey still to this day called Beignets. It's in Denville, New Jersey, and they also make king cake. I'm very mad that I've never been there. I actually should have ordered a king cake this year, but again, as we know, those are things I don't always have to have. Dobosh cake is my jam, but now mentioning this, I think I'm going to have to make an exodus to Beignets in Denville. Anyways, through an extensive Google image and Instagram search, I can vouch that by photo alone, the beignets at Beignets in Denville, New Jersey look as close to a Louisiana beignet as you can imagine. Now, there is a local restaurant in Jersey City that has beignets as a dessert. I don't want to knock them, so I'm not going to say their name. I haven't been to them yet because I don't want to pay $25 for a plate of jambalaya. But their photos of beignets, they look more like hush puppies, like they're dark and small and not in a square. No thanks. That ain't right, y'all. I'm on the fence about other people, non-Louisiana folk, if you will, recreating our infamous state donut. And the beignet became a state donut in 1986. And there's only one other state donut in the U.S., and I'll let you guess what that is. I'll give you a hint. It's a wicked pissa, y'all. Wait, no, y'all. I just mixed a couple different things right there, but it's a wicked pissa. It's a Boston cream, Massachusetts. But just like I did right there, a Louisiana girl doing like a horrible Boston impersonation, do we let the experts, the originators of the thing, create the thing, or do we embrace it? Even if they're in New Jersey, bless them, who are trying their darndest to just celebrate Louisiana culture or sub in any culture here for that matter. Others want to join in on the fun. I think that's the answer. And I think Hoover Bob, my dad, will agree with that. And while the beignet taste, the beignet texture at Coffee Call on College Drive in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in my humble opinion, is the best, it's the experience that matters. So whether you're at Café du Monde in New Orleans or Beignets in Denville, New Jersey, wherever or however you recreate them, whether you're in your house doing it at home with the beignet mix that Café du Monde makes, as the French would say, the Cajun French, laissez les bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll, y'all. Now, I want to share one thing with y'all. A little travel tip, if you will. And these guys don't sponsor me at all. I don't have any sponsors yet. I'm looking for some. Coffee Call here's looking at y'all, baby. But actually, maybe should holler at this place too. If you're in New Orleans, of course, try Café du Monde, but also go to Café Beignet. They opened in the 1990s and they have many locations, but the one that Harry and I went to when we were down there many, many years ago is at Musical Legends Park on Bourbon. Where else can you enjoy jazz, a Sazerac cocktail, beignets in an outdoor courtyard at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday? Not even Mardi Gras Tuesday, y'all. That, mes amis, is one of the many reasons why I love my motherland. And I'm so grateful for my dad taking me to Coffee Call every Sunday morning all those years ago. I'm grateful for myself that I can now look at food in a healthier way because clearly, after a whole podcast episode which involved research and soul searching, I definitely give many, many more than two shits about beignets.
Thanks so much for listening, y'all. It is my hope to inspire, uplift, and entertain you with this Who's Dat Fat Girl podcast. So, if you're hungry for more, you can book me to speak or perform my solo show that inspired this podcast, Fat Girl Costumes, written by yours truly and directed by Brian Lady at your virtual or in-person event. Please visit brookehoover.com/fluffybuttproductions or email me at contactbrookhoover@gmail.com for more info. And let's follow each other on Instagram. I'm at Brooke Hoover, and the O's in my name are not the letter O, they're zeros. Not because I want to be a size 0, but because I guess I'm just so clever with my late 90s Yahoo self. And if you like this podcast, which I really hope you do, please give me a 5-star rating and write a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, share this with your friends, family, and other people you may know who are as fat as we are. That's fat with a PH.